out of curiosity, it's hard to put a number on this because we're so seasonal here. You got 6 months where you're dead, 6 months where you're jamming.
Sure.
But let's just say the 6 months where you're jamming. How much time do you think that this saves you overall? Not only from the sales aspect, but then from the after the sale, the installation, the service, the maintenance.
Hours a week, hours. I mean, so even if 4 to 5 hours a week is easily, more than 10% of the time I spend working on everything.
Yeah.
So it's huge savings, and also it's less stressful. It's done. It's not a second step, and that's for me a big problem is I'm really gung-ho at first on something, and then the follow-up, the getting back to the office and getting that into the priority list of all the other things that are waiting at the office.
Yeah.
That's where I would struggle is, you might have this large quote that you're really excited about on site. Then you get to the office and something else happened, or you just had a laundry list of other things, and it gets pushed somewhere in there, and it's not a priority necessarily, because running a business, as most business owners would agree, there's always something coming at you that you have to deflect or put off, or you have to take and put something else off. So it's really the time saver and the organizational side of it has been what's really been beneficial to us.
And of course, that's a bit of a pushback that I get is, why is this app $70 a month? Well, how much is your time worth? If we just said, Jake just said that he saved 4 to 5 hours a week, how much time is his worth on a month?
I don't know. Quick math, maybe that's an hour. Like got paid for an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's definitely a good return on investment. And that's just me. We have multiple people with the Lighting Boss app who are in the field. So their time's worth. I know what their time's worth more accurately, but it's saving them time and then in turn us money as a company.
And that's literally just approaching it from a time saving standpoint, let alone the ability to boost the sales, and then the value that it adds to your company when it comes time for you to retire, to sell your company. This detailed documentation that's also flexible too. That's going to make a huge difference.
I like to think that it's adding some serious value to us, especially if you were to pin us versus a competitor and be making a decision. I'd like to purchase a lighting company. I'm looking at 5 of them in Southwest Florida. This is going to be that difference maker that they can walk in and say they have it together. Mm-hmm. Or is it a bunch of Excel spreadsheets and quick, like what I inherited, that just kind of felt like somewhat of a mess at times, and didn't make you always look the best, or didn't make you feel confident, I guess, when you took over those accounts, that you could walk in and act like you knew what was going on. You're kind of leaning on the client almost to some degree. What was
that's not a position
what is going
you want to be
on.
in. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So and I mean it's a lot of new business with lighting, so it's interesting. We really, even though we have a lot of clients that have been with us for a long time now, or with the previous company and now us, we've even caught some of them back up on the software. We went through and did some documentation on just those older clients as we go out there for an addition or a repair or something like that. And that's been helpful. And certain properties maybe not justify going back to doing that, but other properties 100% do. And you'll know which ones are the time sucks that the documentation will save you a ton of time.
Sure. So what you understand, and you've seen the whole process because you're right here, you've been a part of it.
Sure.
So you know that there are a lot of other things that we want to do with this. What's the number one thing you either don't like or feature that you would like to see? Or if you want to name 2 or 3 things, what would be key for you?
I think compatibility from one tablet to another.
Okay.
The ability to see the same the same projects from one tablet to the other.
And by the way, I'm not sure that we don't already have that.
Okay.
Since that full launch a couple weeks ago, that may already exist.
Yeah, because we've had our heads to the ground for that. I mean, we haven't. Yeah, we just have been using it the way we've been using it previously. So if that's probably the number one thing, and that's great that it's out, because what that allows you to do is your installer can then see it on site on a tablet, versus we were having to screenshot or something like that. It was 2 seconds, but it's still 2 seconds, and it's still a step that if it's not done, the whole process falls apart. Because you're able to rely on this chain of information coming through Lighting Boss that, you do the initial quote, it gets all put in, they accept it, You have your order right there of materials. Send that off to your distributor, Lighting Boss, and that comes through. Your order comes in. Your order's sitting there, pulled in the warehouse. Your installer has a map of where it's going. You stop by, observe, oversee the project, but you're not having to go lay out exactly at 8 o'clock when the installer gets to the job site, which is the hardest part. Being a business owner, you're getting pulled all these directions.
Yeah.
Your installer is more independent than they've ever been, and I'd like to say that our lead installer was pretty independent to start with, and it's allowed us to do even larger projects without having to have the oversight exactly at a certain time to get them started. They can get started, and then the oversight can kind of come behind when it's more convenient for that.
Well, I know you mentioned the other day the ability to actually sign the tablet where the estimate is.
Yeah.
I know that's something that we're working on.
We do a lot of handshake deals, which another thing that I know is a no-no, but it's just how we've always done business.
It's better if you have the deposit check in your hands.
Exactly, and we typically send an email over of what we just showed them on Lighting Boss, so they have, we have some paper trail. It's not like we're just, cash and handshake and it's go our separate ways. But that deposit check makes it feel very real for them. We've never had anybody back out of a deposit check with the Lighting Boss software ever.
Yeah, good.
And that's really been a stronghold for us. It's the imagery. It's if you're not going to do a demo, or even if you are going to do a demo, being able to show them something right there in the moment, because you can hold a fixture, see a fixture. You can point at trees and point at columns and walls and say, this is going to be beautifully washed and it's going to be this color temperature, and you can try to describe the scene to them. But describing the scene, for some people, works perfectly, and the map means nothing to them, because it's still sales and everybody's minds are different. Yep. But to that other 50% that want to see, where's the fixture going?
Yeah.
How do you do the wire? The analytical people, the people that were engineers in a previous life, they want to know these finer details.
Yeah.
And it gives you something to show them on that end, because you're not going to practice trench across the front yard to show them how deep the wire is going to go or where it's going to go.
Do you think that anyone is taking that information and using it against you by showing them the layout? And you don't have to show anyone the layout, but I know you use it as part of your sales process.
We use it as part of the sales process, so I'm hesitant to send it over after the fact if we don't have a deposit check. That's where I get weary, is
and you should be.
When you're talking to someone and they say, well, I'm really interested, I need to talk to my wife, which is another mistake. If they need to talk to their wife or their husband, that means you didn't get the decision makers there in the first place, which this all goes back to, if the sales process is really honed in, Lighting Boss is a slam dunk every time. They either we're going to buy from you or not, pretty much. There. But but going back to that, I normally will show them, hoping they don't have photographic memory, and say, here's what we plan on doing. And it's typically an overview of the entire property. So for somebody to retain all that, I mean, they were obviously taking notes the whole time mentally, if that was the case. And that happens every now and then. I feel like we probably, I'd like to think we had a superior design to the competition, and then it gets kind of taken from us and given to the lowest bidder, which typically isn't us. And that goes back to the apples to apples of what components are you using, things like that, install methods. But the map, I think the benefits of it all, of providing the map, far outweigh the cost of the person who did that. Probably wouldn't be an ideal client, I would think anyways. They're not really loyal to you, so and that's what I think most of us are trying to do here, is build a loyal client.
Loyal clientele, of course. Of course.
Absolutely.
Last question. To the people out there who are skeptical to try it, and while we've had a number of people jump on board with the trial, and that's great, there's still a lot of you who haven't. To the people who are skeptical, they're a little scared, hesitant to try it, what would you say?
Quickly, I mean, it was not in any way a hard onboarding process. So a lot of software switches and things like that can be extremely cumbersome on your employees' time, your time. Learning new software is not necessarily inherent. This software was really quick and easy. We've trained several people to be able to do sales on it, and it's typically a day. And it doesn't need to be a whole day if you are so comfortable with it. It was typically at the beginning where I was still kind of figuring out the little quirks and things like that, the little differences that maybe you just assume something does something and it doesn't. But that happens with any software. So I'd say really it's that there's really no reason not to try it because the onboarding of it is so simple.
Yeah, and we continue to try to make it easier even than when you started using it, being our alpha user, really our first user.
Sure.
So
yeah, but there's no like week-long course. It's not like there's QuickBooks seminars you need to go to or go, watch online tutorials. And I think the support's been great, and I know I'm not the only one who gets support on the app. I mean, there's someone there to walk you through it. There's someone there to answer your questions on how to do the back end setup, and those are all things that I know you're improving on too. Is the back end setup.
Trying to improve on everything.
Yeah, having videos so that way they don't have to wait on hold. They can watch a video that shows them how to do the setup. But it really is simple. It's a day setup, a day onboarding process to enter all that information in on the back end. Mm-hmm. And then obviously your time, Ryan harped on this and it really hit home with me having, a young daughter at home now. I didn't when we started all this. You did, you just had to have your son, and, time is, you can't get it back, and you can't get it back with your kids or your wife or your boat and your fishing or whatever it is you love to do, and golf. You can get around to golf in a week now for the amount of time you're going to save. So now we're quantifying things here. So it's been a game changer for us, and I just don't know why you wouldn't try it. We try stuff all the time that costs us money, and we don't get that money back. Yeah. This is kind of one of those. At least it's very industry specific. It's not like you're going out on some major limb here to to do something. So give it a shot. I really think true lighting contractors will see the benefit in it. 100%.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks, Brad.
Thank you. That was great.